Welcome to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. This is our weekly venture into the world of small to medium-sized businesses and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives success.
So our goal here is to help you grow and to be the best you can be, both in business and personally. To do that, we identify and we discuss topics that will hopefully help you as you work to build a successful business.
We also interview business owners and executives. It's our hope that you may be able to gain insight on ways to help you be a better leader and provide a better culture for your people.
Our mission here is to help you pull the chute once a week to work on your business instead of always working in your business.
So we hope you find these discussions insightful, helpful, and useful.
And thanks for your support. We hope you enjoy today's podcast.
Well, welcome folks to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. We are so excited that you're here. Jana, how are you today?
I am good today.
Yeah.
It's a day, as they say, this is so grim, but a day above dirt is a good day. Or a day above snow in this case.
Right. Yeah, I see
Southeast.
that, right? So Jana, I am so excited. We have an amazing guest today. Katrena Friel is with us. She's calling in from Australia, Jana. We've never had anybody that far around the world call in. Katrena, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, God, lovely to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
And I love this accent. Isn't it awesome?
It's the best. It's the best. Here's the crazy part. We're recording this on a Thursday. It's Friday for her. She's already in the 7 a.m. the next day. So she's in the future for us. That's kind of crazy to think about, but how fun. How fun. Well, Katrena, thanks for being. We really, really appreciate it. Do us a favor, tell our listeners who you are and how you got to where you're at today so that they have a better understanding of who we're talking to.
Well, I've been around for over 25 years now, working in that space around that leadership piece. But I specialize in engagement, and I call myself the engagement switch. Switching engagement on, and just sort of explaining to leaders that every conversation you're having in the halls is switching engagement on or off. And so what we want to do is obviously keep it on, keep people productive, keep people engaged in the business. So I've created this model called the Flick model, Flick It On. And hopefully we'll get to sort of talk about that today and what does that mean and what does that include. And I've just been doing it for so long and I absolutely love the people piece. That's my bag.
Yeah, we do too. It's our tagline is, grow your people, grow your company, right? And so we just firmly believe that if you can get that to happen, it's great. So talk to me about, kind of tell us a little bit more about, this whole switch piece. It's fun. It sounds interesting. It sounds fun. And keeping people engaged is huge, right? That's one of the things we really need to do.
Yeah, well, the Flick model is so that it houses all the things that we need to be talking about. And the first one is F for fun and fair. We really want to keep the atmosphere fun and fair. And I find that sometimes we take our jobs way too seriously. We take ourselves way too seriously. We take the companies and the day-to-day way too seriously. So if we can really look at that fun piece, this generation that we're working with insists on it. Gen X, we tolerated it and just went along with it. Gen Y started to go, you're serious? This is really awful to work here. And then the rest of the generations that are coming up, are just going to insist on, if we're going to work this long and this hard, then we need to be having fun along the way and really enjoy our work and find meaning and purpose within that fun. And the fair bit, well, that just goes without saying. What I found in my career that would disengage me quick is when something became unfair. And as soon as something felt unfair, I'd be like, I start to disengage and look elsewhere. So anyway, on to leadership. L for leadership, Flick model. L for leadership. Now, leadership I could talk about for 9 days straight, so I won't do that. But we'll get back to the leadership piece. And I have a lot of views around the leadership piece, and my favorite signature program is my leadership management masterclass. If I could get 2 days with a team, I can turn that ship around quite quickly. And then I is for influence. You've got to be able to influence the people around you, up, down, and sideways. You know, so again, influence. You and I, we all could talk about influence for quite a few days. And then C is for clues and to cherish. So clues, what you're looking for in disengaged people, or whether your team is engaged or not, is the clues. And if you, I like to show managers the clues, you know, sitting back in meetings, not caring, you know, rolling your eyes. You know, there's loads of clues that are really obvious, but there's also loads of clues that are quite subtle. And so we want to look for clues, whether your team's engaged or not. And then when we have a team, we want to cherish them, because it's hard to lose a team member. It's hard to recruit. It's hard to get good people. So if you've got them, please cherish them. It saves you money and time, which is money. So, you know, you really got to cherish them. And the final one is K for knowledge and knowing. Knowledge about them as people, as human beings, knowledge to know whether they're married or not, whether they have kids or not, whether they're sick or not, you know, what's their health like, what's going on for them, you know, knowledge about who these people are, because they're not a number and nobody wants to be treated as a number. So you really want to have good knowledge around your people, genuine, deep knowledge about your people. And then the knowing what to do and when to do it. Knowledge, and this knowing that that when they need development, knowing when to have a meeting, when not to have a meeting, when, you know, when not to interrupt them. I mean, there's just this knowing, this innate, intuitive knowing that you're meant to have as a leader. So that kind of sums it up. Hopefully that was done quickly and interestingly, so that we can dive in wherever you want to go. Whatever.
I think it's great, Katrena. I really do. And what I love is that it's, and Jeff and I talk about this all the time, it's people forward. It's not policies and procedures and profit. You have to have policies, procedures, and profit, but you have to have people first. You have to have the right people, and people that all want to contribute and be a team member. And so it is a new responsibility, not new, but it is a newer responsibility for leaders, right? Because like, again, like you said, Gen Xers and baby boomers, which we're all part of, that mindset was very much about policies, procedures, and the bottom line, you know, and profit. And people were second. And now it really is that way for the younger generations, isn't it? I love that. So how do you go about it?
I remember seeing the switch, and I saw it, I think, in my career. And I think the switch, the swing around to the people first started to happen when Gen Y came in, because it really shocked the organizations where they weren't tolerating it. Gen Y just didn't tolerate it. They just went, this is unfair. This is not what you said. These are not following your values. This is incongruent. Like, what? And they did not like it. And so we all had to stop and say, wow, you're right. We're not congruent. We say one thing and we do another, and it doesn't match up. And so integrity now, transparency now, all these things are in people's actual values now, because of Gen Y entering the market. And Gen Y now are the managers, like times past, 25 years past.
We talk about it as the millennials, the
millennials are here and deep in the organizations. And, you know, I want to see different things than what we saw when we were growing up.
Yeah. So it's interesting, because I totally agree with the fun and fair piece. All the companies I've ever had, we've tried to do exactly that. The fair part gets to be complicated at times, because you got to be careful of, you're having so much fun that, you know, what becomes fair then at some point. So that's one of the drawbacks I thought on that. But boy, I love this whole Flick thing. This is really, because it's all the things that Jen and I absolutely believe in. You've just put it into an acronym that is really cool. So I love it. That's amazing.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. That's a lot coming from you guys.
Yeah. So how do you go about starting this all off? Is there a process that you go in and teach companies? How does this all work?
Yeah, so normally what happens with me is I get brought in to do the 2-day signature program where we do a leadership management masterclass. And we call it that because it's something that you would be proud to go to. Nobody wants to go to the fundamentals of anything or the beginner's guide to whatever. They all want to come to a masterclass. They want it to be something that's advanced, interactive. These guys have been around for a while, and you know, we want to go deep into it. So what I do is I say to them, look, to be good at the people piece, you have to be almost like a psychologist. So what I give them over those 2 days is the ability to be a psychologist and to understand psychology, but just at the level that they need to know. So yeah, we just deep dive into what makes people tick, how to read people really easily, and just sort of start to bring that into focus, because they're good at the technical part. They're good at the policies, procedures, systems, process, re-engineering, all of that. But the people piece is never taught really at all. And so they kind of don't understand the people piece and what makes people tick. So I show them, I pull the curtain back, they get to understand people and the importance of it. And we really deep dive into the cost of losing somebody. I mean, it's not just... they don't just resign and give, 2 weeks notice. They've resigned months before that, and they've resigned in their mind and hearts sometimes years before that. So, this is costing you money every day. And so losing someone is really just not smart business. So, how do we keep them? How do we keep them happy? And explaining that training, I believe, training and coaching is the easiest way to do it. The absolute easiest way. Now, that seems biased coming from us, doesn't it?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
It's biased, and yes, sure, it might seem a bit biased, but at the same time, there's no getting around what motivates people, and people want to be trained. The issue with training is, when was the last time you went to a good one? It's usually quite dry and quite boring and beige. So what I do is my objective first and foremost is for them to fall in love with learning again. So I make it really fun, make this stuff really magical and come alive and have a good time, while we're in training. And then after we've done the 2 days training, I love it if they can afford to go into a deep dive into the coaching piece. So I'll go in and coach each individual person just to check in with what were the lumpy bits for them during the masterclass that they couldn't say publicly. And that's where we go down. And once we've done those 2 bits, I just put them on the right trajectory, and they've got all the tools that they need and all the self-awareness now that they need to move on, because before they weren't conscious. Now they're conscious.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And now they can make change.
Yeah. So I think some of the things you were talking about was emotional intelligence, when you were talking about how they need to understand the psychology of it and understand people, right? To listen more intently, to not react emotionally, to act a little more logically, or as I like to say with the pull the chute, is to take a breath, feel in control, see where you're at and see where you want to go. Because that's kind of what we try to teach people is, just don't react immediately, which is what they do a lot of times. So if we can take that emotion out, boy, they're going to be so much better off as a leader, and people are going to understand, take the emotion out and talk to them about why you're making the decision you're making. And I like to call it the why and because. Why you're doing this, because you're trying to get to this particular point, makes all the difference in the world. So totally agree with that. I love what you're doing.
Yeah, it sort of unveils why it's fair. And then once people understand why it's fair, because it's not all about them. That's the thing, is we don't want people going, it's me.com all the time. It's like, no, we're a team, we're a company. There's decisions that need to be made that are macro. It's not always going to be micro. How are you happy? Let's have a party on Friday. No, we can't be partying on Friday all the time. These decisions are broader, and you've got to have staff that have got business acumen, and they understand the bigger picture and the impacts that are going on, and that these decisions are fair, but from whose point of view?
Well, and I love the idea that you use the word fair, respected, heard, these kinds of things. I think the key with leaders is they have to lead with that. They have to start with that, saying, look, here's the deal. I don't know everything. Jeff and I talk about this all the time. If a leader can say, I don't know everything, that's why I have you, Mr. Employee or Miss Employee, to help, because you are the expert in this particular, vertical or whatever, this particular role you're in. But they also have to understand that if they can come in with that sort of presence and that mindset of, I respect you for the position I put you in. So don't be afraid to comment, or don't be afraid to bring ideas to me or to us. And I think that's great, that concept of fair, so that then they do realize they not only you care about how they feel, but you also care about their work and their what they're producing for the company. Yeah, it's great. It's
Jen, the idea of psychological safety now is actually a buzzword. Like, we actually use that now. We didn't have that in our day, did we? There was nothing psychologically safe about going to work. You could be yelled at, you could be treated with disrespect, anything could happen. One of the worst things that happened to me quite a number of times in this regard, based on what you're saying right now, is that they used to say to me when I was younger, we don't pay you to think.
Yeah, right.
And that was one way you could switch me right off. And I was a very engaged, dynamic, enthusiastic. I was that one at work, really hardworking, the ones that you wanted to keep. I was a high-performing, self-managing go-getter that you want to keep. And every time I'd go in with an idea and open up my mouth, sometimes they would say, we don't pay you to think, meaning we don't want your ideas. We don't want you changing things around here. And that was not the culture I was looking for. I realized that I wanted that open door policy. They always said they had, but they didn't really have.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when an enthusiastic person comes in, you don't have to implement all their stupid ideas, of course. They don't understand the bigger picture. They might not know how long that will take or how much that will cost or whether you're even interested in it or not. It's just that she's thinking. Reward her for thinking and say, thank you. Keep bringing me those ideas. Let me park that for now. But, you consider yourself, the seed has been planted. Thank you. But I never used to do that. And I used to just get so disengaged from that. And so you're right, making sure that there is an open door policy when they do come in and speak up and speak out. Just know how brave that is to do that and to reward that behavior. Not shut it down, because you shut that down, they end up switching off, and they switch off for good.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Well, and the younger generations demand it. Like you said, this psychological safety, they call it like work-life balance or mental stability. The younger generations, like you said, the Gen Zers and this new alpha generation, they sort of demand it, because they think about it. They've been raised where mental illness is talked about now, and that work-life understanding, you can call it balance, or you can call it understanding, whatever you want. These are all big aspects of your life now, compared to when, 25 years ago, when they didn't care if you worked an 80-hour week, you had to get your work done. So,
well, I believe the future is that we're going to actually start suing our organizations for killing our partner.
Yes.
Because the stress that we're under for doing these 80-hour weeks is actually not sustainable, not good business. And I think because we've already correlated that stress equals death.
Yes.
We've already made that link. So when these organizations look at their culture and this beating of the horse to death, I think they're going to be in big, big trouble. And I know that it's starting to happen now, where there's going to be some payouts around, well, you made him go to work like this over 20 years, when it used to be like a guy back in the day used to die of a heart attack at 50. Well, women are dying at a heart attack at 40.
Yeah. Because
we're all here now, men and women. We are all doing 80-hour weeks. This is very unhealthy and very, very unsafe. And we're meant to have healthy cultures, healthy workplaces. And the minute the suing starts, you watch. That will absolutely force the people piece and the balance piece into proper view. They've been talking about it for 20 years, but I haven't seen many changes in the hours. And I know personally, for me, my story is that I had 2 burnouts before I was 25.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
I've got that tendency, and I was working those horrendous hours. So luckily, in my story, I got the burnouts before I was 25, because quite frankly, I wouldn't have made it to 56
Yeah. Wow.
if I had continued on that trajectory and not done the work to say, Katrena, hang on a minute, you cannot work like that. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy. You will die at 40.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Wow.
And so luckily for me, I got it early. I got the lessons early, and I've made changes ever since. And I'm here, healthy, able to do my work, and keep going. Like, you want a long career. You want to be income producing and relevant and commercial for as long as possible.
Well, and I think what you're doing, or what Jan and I love to do, is that there's this huge gap. So there's a stat that says that 83% of all companies know they need leadership development, right? Only 5% are doing it, which means all, the other 95% are either doing nothing or not really developing leaders. And the problem is they're just driving the horses, in a sense, right? They're just whipping the horses, and they're just driving them as hard and as far as they can before they go to the next one. And so we need to make a change. We've got to be able to just, go in there and start doing it. The other stat is, and we talked about this earlier, and you said it, is, the millennials, by 2025, millennials are 75% of the workforce. 69% of those millennials feel unprepared to be in leadership roles. Another huge gap that we've got to fix. So the millennials came in, the Gen Yers, however you describe them, they came in and they were like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. But then we kind of backed off and said, fine, then do it yourself, which was wrong too, right? There's so many things in there. So, we've got to keep pushing this, you guys. We've got to keep talking about this. We got to keep trying to make changes, and just changing this, because, as you said, people are going to burn out, and it's not healthy. The lifestyle's got to be so much different.
Well, and it does also boil back down to the communication piece, which we're big proponents of. And that is, you have to have this clear, concise, kind of commanding but compassionate communication with all of the workers, all of the little workers in the workforce. And they're all different ages now. They're all different demographics. They all have different life stories. And we're talking about the inclusion piece and all of that. So it's a new world this last 20 years. It's a nice, beautiful, big melting pot of generations, but we have to learn to all communicate together and play nice in the pool. And that's been a little bit of the struggle as well, is a boomer knowing how to dialogue with the Gen Zer and vice versa, and respecting where they've come from. They all come from their own events, their own socioeconomic backgrounds, the big historical events that have happened in their lifetimes, technology, all of that plays into it. So yeah, it's interesting.
100%. I love that we all do need to respect the different communications and the different stories that go on. But with millennials, when I'm working with them and training them, they're very self-aware. So I don't have to spend a lot of the time, like with the boomer and the Gen Xers, we're doing a lot of the self-awareness piece more so, because they never got that piece when they were growing up. Whereas the millennials are coming in very self-aware, very emotionally intelligent. And so I don't need to do that with them. But what I do need to explain to them is they don't know what they don't know, and they have to earn their first stripe. So the first stripe that they will get is between 20 and 25. They start to learn the lay of the land. They kind of work out what's happening. And then 25 to 30, they earn their second stripe. And 30 to 35, they'll earn their third stripe. So not until you're 35 are you getting juicy and interesting. So the problem is they're not self-aware enough to know that they have to earn the 3 stripes. So once I explain it like that there is this layering effect of experience that will come into their wisdom, and then they'll start at 35 to go, all right, now I know what I'm really good at. Now that I know what I love, I know what I hate, I know what I don't want to do. Great. Now, between 35 and 40, you're going to enter your peak. So not until you're 40 does your career really actually begin. So then at 40 to whatever, so think of it as a bell curve, 40 is here, you've got this whole bell curve piece right at the top. That is your career trajectory. And so you're going to go 40, 50, 60, 70. You know, in my case, I'll probably go to about 80 because I love what I'm doing.
95. My mom worked.
Yeah.
My mom worked in her 90s, you know.
Yeah, when you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, as they say.
Yeah,
but
that's
anyway,
right.
for these people that are working, that trajectory then is, what do you make of your career in the peak of your career, in the peak of your mastery? What do you make of those 20, 30 years? Right up till then, you're just earning your 3 stripes. Go for your life. But millennials need to understand they have to earn their stripes.
Yes.
And that's what pisses the Gen X off and the boomers off, is because they just sort of wanted to go straight to the heights of their career into mastery. The thing is, they didn't have the mastery.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Katrena, this has been such an enlightening, just fun conversation. I love the whole Frick method. It's amazing. Thank you for what you're doing in the world here. We've got to, I said, as I got on my soapbox for a second, we've got to start making a difference. There's just so much in the world. We've got to work together and be unified for that message. And boy, you've done a great job of that. If people want to get a hold of you, Katrena, how can they do that? Well,
the easiest one is to go to theengagementswitch.com.au. There they'll be able to download the Flick model and just sort of print it out and have a bit of a look at it and start to think about, where do you sit with some of these things, and give yourself a rating out of 10 for how do you rate it. And I would love, just to have free discovery sessions with people where they may never hire me, and that's okay. But please reach out, have a free discovery session where I can just deep dive into where you are personally, and I'll be able to have a bit of a rummage about from a psychological point of view. And we'll be able to have some nice conversations about your particular challenges, and even look at potentially in the future doing a bit of one of my audits. And so I really hope to get juicy with some people and have a bit of a rummage about. That'll be so much fun. And thank you for having me today. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. We just thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and you can tell we're passionate about it as you are. So it's just one of those great conversations. So to all our listeners out there, thank you as always. Jan and I always love the feedback. So please continue to send those emails. Let us know what you liked and what you didn't like, and we'll see what we can do to fix that as well. But we're always excited to receive those emails. So thanks for sending those in. Till the next time, folks, stay safe and be healthy.